Welcome to the Lanterne Cycling Podcast, this time with Benji. Patrick is not here today for the final stage of the Tour de France, the men's Tour de France, stage 21 on the Champs-Élysées, but a bit more special than the usual years. You might be wondering, by the way, where's Patrick? Well, Patrick was on a mountain hike yesterday, and he got abducted by vultures, and I've never seen him since, so that's a sad reality. Now, on a serious note, he's off to Paris for the actual ending of the men's Tour de France, and I'm holding the fort today to try and keep you entertained. So starting off on YouTube right now as well with the Tour de France men's podcast. And on podcast players, it will continue afterwards with the women's Tour de France from stage 2, which is also already on YouTube as a separate video as well. But anyway, let's jump into this because today's stage was actually better than I expected. I won't lie about it. From Mantes-la-Ville to Paris-Champs-Élysées, the final stage of the Tour de France, with a parcours that is slightly different than the last couple of years. And if we take a look specifically at the changes, then it all comes in the second half of the race, because usually this is a ceremonial procession stage. The first half is spent taking pictures, champagne for the riders, stuff like that. The second half, once you get onto the Champs-Élysées circuit, then we've got the usual loops that end in the Champs-Élysées sprint. But today there's an addition to that where we've got 3 times the Montmartre climb, which is 1K at 4.8%. And that is the climb you might remember from the Olympics in France last year, where we've seen Mathieu van der Poel smash pedals with Wout van Aert trying to follow, Remco Evenepoel being ahead, stuff like that. That climb is in this race 3 times. And on top of that, rainy conditions. And that actually affects today's race quite a lot, but I think we might as well jump into it quite quickly here. Now, the race actually started off relatively similar than usual years. So you have the usual pictures taken by jersey winners like Tadej Pogacar with the UAE team, Jonathan Milan with the team of Little Trek, etc., etc. Small rant, personal thing. Those jersey winners then also take a picture with the riders from their country, and that's a bit weird for me. Like, every now and then you do see, for example, in today's stage also, the Australian riders taking a picture together. Sure, fun ceremonial thing for them at the end of this Tour de France, but also it's a bit weird that Jonathan Milan, as the part of the official ceremony, had to take a picture with every single Italian in the peloton that have nothing to do with Milan, nor with the jersey, nor with Little Trek. Anyway, that's a personal opinion. Anyway, the race actually properly kicks off once we hit the actual Champs-Élysées. So the first time hitting the Champs-Élysées, where the UAE team rides off the front of the peloton for a little bit to cross the line first. That's a tradition within the sport. And because there's a gap there's this awkward moment before the first attacks come. Because after that first finish line, or the first line on the Champs-Élysées, you can actually start attacking as a rider. So that's what we do see relatively soon after that, which is Magnus Cort, for example, Quinn Simmons, all going into a move. And in the back, we see already the interested riders swapping up, as in we see Visma quite certainly at the front there with the likes of Jorgensen, Kampenaerts, but also Jonas Vingegaard is at the front in the polka dot jersey, controlling the breakaway at this point, which that's odd to see, I will say that, but very welcome to see as well as a small part in today's stage for Visma Leasewijk. And then we also see on the other side, Pogacar positioning himself to potentially compete for the stage as well. We would see later in the stage whether he actually would be going for the stage or not. Still an uncertainty at this point, but the fact that he's fighting for positions would argue that it's most likely going to occur, I would say. But from that point onwards, we are straight up preparing ourselves for the first Montmartre. Some attacks before that with Quinn Simmons and Lipovic, but in the run-up to the first Montmartre, those riders get caught. Mechanicals from O'Connor, from Jordi Meus, those riders, not sure what happened with them. Hopefully they ended up finishing the Tour de France. I guess we'll find out on the results list later. First Montmartre. This is where the race properly begins. The run into Montmartre is a bit of a lead out, but you can also see that not the entire peloton is too interested in trying to win the stage. So you've got this segment of the peloton that goes off the front and starts positioning themselves towards Montmartre. And we see there Ricard positioning Groves. We see Dainese positioning Marco Haller, Julien Alaphilippe, Affini positioning Victor Kampenaerts, Jorgensen, and Wout van Aert. Bini is also well positioned. Also Pogacar in P5 once that Montmartre hits, and Haller starts spacing, but the first attack, it always happens. Every single time, the first attack is Julien Alaphilippe. And in the wheel is Arnaud Delis, being very, very good, actually. Yesterday morning, when the stage 20 started, he didn't look very good. Stage 19 as well didn't look very good. So it was actually quite surprising for me that he was still there on the first Montmartre and fighting for a potential stage win here. And in the group following, we have Wout van Aert looking okay today. Poggi, very active, following. Mike Teunissen was reported, but I'm pretty sure it was Ballerini on this climb at this point. Bergmoes as well. Maybe it was Mike Teunissen at this point, not sure. But there's a group not too far behind of like 15, 20 riders, and now I have to complain. I have to enter my complaint, people. I have to enter my complaint. So we go over the top of Montmartre, and I'm watching the Tour de France, like I've done this entire tour basically, on TNT Sports in the UK. I'm paying 372 fucking pounds per year. That is 31 pounds per month to get coverage on a streaming service, and they put so many bloody ads in their fucking streaming service. It is so annoying. 20% of my coverage is ads. 20% of the ads is not even ads, because then they shove a screen on the screen that says, back in a bit, for like a minute. I'm sorry, show me the race. Ay, ay, ay. This entire descent of the first Montmartre, I was staring at ads and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Anyway, sadness and angriness to the side. It doesn't take too long for those riders, the Alaphilippes, Delis, Wout van Aert, Poggi, to get caught by a group of 25 riders. And there are some attempts from that group to get away from that. Bastien Tranchon, Jonas Abrahamsen, stuff like that. But that's kind of controlled. Not necessarily by a certain team controlling. Yes, Visma tried to keep it together with Campenaerts, but I think it was more that there was this common understanding with this front group that if we all work together, then we will get to that next Montmartre, the second Montmartre, ahead of any group that is behind, because the peloton was split in a billion pieces. Some were still trying to come back, but that group of 20 riders was all that would be fighting for the stage win. That is for sure. But this is a one-man solo pod. I'm in the solo breakaway today, so every now and then I'll go for a sip, and that will be a bit of silence on the podcast player, but here we go. There we go. That was some good, refreshing water there. Anyway, Montmartre number 2 starts, and Campenaerts' positioning Jorgensen for this climb, Wout van Aert in complete Narnia. I'm sorry, bro, but the worst position on the whole climb, moves up in the first few gradings on the left side, so clearly has the watts to move up, but his position, it's a waste of effort, to be honest. Like, if he's in a good position before the climb starts, all that effort to move up doesn't need to happen. Pogacar makes a move at the front at this same moment, and Wout van Aert's not at the front yet. Tadej Pogacar doing his out of Quaremont move of shredding this entire climb from start to top, the entire way through, and on his wheel, not Wout van Aert, not yet, not the people you'd expect to be on a Pogacar wheel, Davide Ballerini of XDS Astana. Now, I've been looking into every single team and what they've achieved in this Tour de France so far in the last 24 hours, and Astana hasn't done much in this race. I'll be honest about that, but Ballerini following the wheel of Pogacar on the second Montmartre, that looked very powerful. Wout van Aert and Jorgensen were also on the wheel eventually, Trentin as well, and that was the group. Pogacar, Ballerini, Wout van Aert, Jorgensen, and Trentin. And in the descent, a man teleports straight towards them. Matej Mohoric is back, straight up descending this entire climb, super fast back to them. Insane performance, but we got a group of 6, and spoilers, all the rest, to my memory, don't come back. We've got a chasing group that lose time in the upcoming Champs-Élysées section. Caden Groves, by the way, got to give him like a little bit of a medal, because he's got one of these like character traits in the race that I really like, where yesterday when Wellens was sitting up in the breakaway and not doing much work, Groves called him out and kind of forced him to start working again. Today in that second chasing group, Groves was calling out everybody that wasn't working as well. I like that. No hesitation. Love it. Anyway, Jorgensen starts rolling attacks. So Visma Leasebike is not 100% confident then in Wout van Aert's sprint or anything. Now, that is low-key understandable after we think back to the what's it called? That Belgian ChatGPT World Tour race, Dwars door Vlaanderen. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, where Wout van Aert had a bit of a shocker of a sprint. But anyway, that to the side. Jorgensen keeps on rolling attacks, and the certainty, the stuff that keeps on happening here is that whenever he attacks, there's someone that goes towards him. For example, Montmartre bridges towards him. But for the rest, all the rest is forcing Tadej Pogacar to do the closing here. And forcing Tadej Pogacar to do the closing is a really good idea, because then you're wasting Tadej Pogacar's effort while you're sitting in the wheel of Tadej Pogacar, and he brings you back to Matteo Jorgensen. So this actually seemed to be a strategy for Visma Leasebike, because it was not Jorgensen and Wout van Aert attacking. They're not rolling attacks. They're just rolling attacks with Jorgensen, which means that they're trying to create a situation where Pogacar keeps wasting energy, closing down Jorgensen with Wout van Aert in the wheel. In so doing, Wout van Aert, relatively to Pogacar then, becoming stronger in the run into the final Montmartre. Very smart strategy. Patrick's not here, so I can compliment the strategies for once. Anyway, the run in towards that third Montmartre. We've got an attack on Montmartre. We knew it was coming. We've got how many kilometers to go the last Montmartre? Maybe like 11, 10 kilometers roughly. So it is the final of the race. This is where the decisive split will happen on the climb. And we see a move by Tadej Pogacar. Happened on the second Montmartre, happens on the third one, but it felt like it was super powerful. It shreds people off the back, but also for the first half, he was looking back a little bit. He like launches, corner comes, so he has to brake. Launches, corner comes, so he has to brake. So it's really the second part of this Montmartre where he can do that longer effort to really try and hurt people. And that's where people do start dropping. And the order on the climb is Pogacar, Wout van Aert, Mohoric, Ballerini, and then the other riders. Those other riders get dropped relatively easily, but Mohoric cracks in front of Ballerini, and it's Pogacar and Wout that then ride off. Ballerini tries to close it, doesn't necessarily achieve that goal, and in doing so, it's a 1v1 in the last few meters of the slope, and I was okay, Wout van Aert is on survival mode based on his level that he's shown in this Tour de France. I was wrong. I was completely wrong in that, because from the wheel, Wout van Aert resurrects himself. The best Wout van Aert I've seen in the last 3 weeks, shreds Pogacar straight off his wheel on Montmartre. I did not expect to see that. A super powerful attack, and it's a 1v1 now. Wout van Aert over the top, Pogacar 5 seconds behind. Well, I'm saying a 1v1. I'm Belgian, but I'm still going to mention it. Wout van Aert might as well have been on the motorbike for the descent of Montmartre here, because that motorbike was super close. It did not affect the outcome of the race, in my opinion, but I do have to mention it, because I also say it in other occasions. So, Wout van Aert is off the front, got a gap of 5 seconds, grows to 10 seconds, race is over. Wout van Aert is riding to a potential victory here on the Champs-Élysées. A victory it is. Wout van Aert wins on the Champs-Élysées after a super explosive stage on the Champs-Élysées today. Gotta say, absolutely loved seeing this Montmartre stage. I forgot to mention it so far, but the GC times were neutralized with about 4 laps to go, so not a single gap for GC really mattered on today's stage. It was all about who wanted to fight for the stage win, and yes, it's awesome to see the best Wout van Aert fight Pogacar, who might not necessarily be at his best after 3 weeks of crazy fighting in the mountains, etc. But I will say, it is so incredibly awesome that you come towards the end of a Grand Tour, and you've got a yellow jersey wearer who, if you looked at the last couple of interviews of Tadej Pogacar, dude looked a bit depressed. But to see him then go out on the Champs-Élysées and compete for the victory like he did today, that's also a massive plus by Tadej Pogacar. That was super epic to see. That 1v1, I love that. So, epic battle here. Shout out to Ballerini as well for the amazing fight today. So, actually a really good stage. And personally, I'm of the opinion that I want to see this Montmartre stage back. I think it's fair to say after today, I think all of you in the YouTube chat, everyone listening on podcast players, the majority will feel like, okay, I enjoyed seeing this on my TV because it was super entertaining. And the usual sprint on the Champs-Élysées is iconic, and it's also entertaining, but it's only really entertaining for the last 4 kilometers. So there's like the question of, should it be always Montmartre? Should it be alternative maybe? Which that's what I like. Maybe do 1 year Montmartre, 1 year the flat sprint, 1 year Montmartre, 1 year the flat sprint. Montmartre is such a difficult word to say, by the way. If you like say it 5 times in a row, it's like a demon will pop up behind you in the mirror. Anyway, we've got a great stage behind us today. That is amazing, but overall, the Tour de France also has ended today. So Tadej Pogacar is the official winner now. He was already the unofficial winner yesterday, but the official winner now of the Tour de France 2025. And he does so in it's hard to say relative ease, but that's kind of what the outcome looks like. He probably went pretty deep throughout the 3 weeks, but he wins by 4 minutes and 24 seconds ahead of Jonas Vingegaard. And Visma Leasebike is able to drop Tadej Pogacar, but not with Vingegaard, with Wout van Aert on Montmartre on the final stage. That does not count for GC. But yeah, great outcome for Tadej Pogacar. We've got a podcast planned next week, I'm pretty sure. Patrick's not here, so I can say whatever I want. We've got one planned next week where we will do a grand discussion of what could Visma Leasebike have done differently, were there weaknesses within the team of UAE that could have been exploited that Visma didn't do? Is there hope for next year that we'll see a closer battle between Pogacar and Vingegaard? Are there other stars rising up? Like, what do we see when it comes to Lipovic in the future? I don't really want to have that discussion alone today when Patrick's not here. I want to have that discussion with Patrick once we're both on the podcast in that next one. So hopefully stay tuned for that. I'm also super hyped to see Oscar only in top 5, for example. Lots of stuff to talk about. By the way, if you have any specific questions like that for that special Tour de France recap podcast, drop it in the comment section on YouTube or in the comments on podcast players if that exists, or send it to Patrick in DMs. He loves it when you harass him in DMs. Absolutely loves it. Jonathan Milan didn't have to do anything for the green jersey points today. He scored enough to secure that jersey. KOM Tadej Pogacar wins that in the end, and the youth jersey goes to Florian Lipovic. Team classification goes to Visma Leasebike. So congrats, boys. But overall, to wrap it up, I also want to go. Actually, I've got free reign here. I'm actually gonna do a bit of self promo. Check out my own YouTube channel, Benji Naesen. I'll be uploading a video there in the next 24 hours where I rate every single team at this Tour de France, from S tier, best of the best, to DNF. They might as well have not started. So check out that video in the next 24 hours. And I want to do a bit of a thank you round at the end of this Tour de France 21 stage preview, recap, whatever. See, I'm losing it. Stage 21, it's all over. Thanks to every single one of you for following our Men's Tour de France podcast in the last 21 days. It's your support that keeps us thriving. It's also the support of partners like Join Cycling, Morton, Pillar, the Tour de France games. Those financially help us, of course, to make us able to do whatever we can here. Thanks to Patrick for being my friendly co-host for the last 21 days. He decided to run off on the last day, so I will take that way too seriously and personal for the next year. But hopefully I can forgive him by the time we get to our next race. But I'm ranting on because I don't know what else to talk about this men's race. So I guess what we should do now is on YouTube, you can go check out the women's recap that I did this morning on podcast players. That women's recap will show up in about 2 seconds. So yeah, let's continue.